All right, here we are. We're here with kind of a special episode. This will be a podcast, it'll be a video. If you want to watch it on YouTube, podcast channels, all the same. But we've got Jacob Davidson from Callaway Golf, and we've got kind of an exciting kind of launch. It's weird. Everybody kind of thinks Elyte has been launched, and here it is. But we've got some welcome additions to the lineup coming here right as summer's about to pick up. But Jacob, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate you jumping on with us to talk about kind of this brand new release here this spring.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Excited. And I think what better timing to launch some new product than we got the Masters rolling up here. And for the WRX people specifically, I think a couple of these offerings will highly appeal to what they're looking for in the Elyte line.
That's true. I mean, that's the thing. When we look at, we've got kind of 2.5 drivers, we'll call it in a sense here, 2 3/4 drivers here to talk about. And I do have to say, when you look at this, these heads, we do a lot of what's in the bag stuff out on tour. You're very familiar with our boy Greg and Andrew out there every week. But we've got some drivers that I know our audience has seen, in a few bags and things like that. Kind of wondering if we will ever see them or kind of what the story is. And now we get to get the full story on all 3 of these. So we've got Elyte Triple Diamond TD, which is kind of a brand new one. That's kind of unique. We haven't seen really that term before. Elyte Triple Diamond Max, and of course the Elyte Mini Driver. So the Elyte Mini. Just in general, all 3. What was kind of the thing behind it? I know we saw them on tour, but what was kind of overall just the plan for these kind of 3 heads?
Yeah. So Brian, I think if we rewind and go all the way back to what does even Triple Diamond mean for Callaway and how did that, better player franchise kind of get conceived? I think if you go all the way back, one thing that you'll see a lot from Callaway is that, we'll put stuff out on tour in its prototype form in order to refine it or to test it. And that's a really big process of what we do. And, at Callaway, we're all about innovation, and we spend more on R&D than anyone else in the industry. And we can test as much as we want here in Carlsbad on the robots, but until you put product out and play in the hands of the best players, whether that's PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, it really isn't ready to go into the market. And so that's one of the final steps for us as we go through the development cycle of a product, is to get it in the best players' hands in the world for final testing. And so one way we've done that is through the really calling it the Triple Diamond. So, originally Triple Diamond started out on tour. We refined it. It was really 6 years in the making before it went to into the market last year with AI Smoke, and then obviously again this year. The TD Max is a newer version of Triple Diamond it followed that same strategy for us. You'll see it right there on the screen in your hands there, Brian. But this was really an idea we had is we said, hey, we know that the best players in the world love Triple Diamond. It's our most played driver across the globe. But we also know that if we could give players a driver that's a little bit more forgiving, that they would benefit from that. And one of the things we pride ourselves on here at Callaway is really our tour analytics. And we look at stats and how we can help our tour players play better. And so when we start looking at, if we can just give them one more fairway over the course of 4 rounds of competition, what would that do to their rankings? What would that do to them on the FedEx Cup finish or their OWGR or the Rolex Ladies rankings? And so we just said, hey, is there an opportunity to take what players love the most about the Triple Diamond? When you look at the unique face shape, when you look at the top line, when you look at the face progression, everything about that driver we know is tour inspired, tour validated. It's winning major championships. And then, you have our Elyte Standard, which is a little bit of a high MOI driver, which is great. And it's doing really well in the marketplace this year. We're excited for it. It does well on tour. But we know that from a better player standpoint, they're so comfortable with the Triple Diamond. And so let's give them an opportunity to have a Triple Diamond, but a little bit more forgiving. We put this out on tour last year, and I'll tell you, it was really interesting. And this is kind of what we watch for, is the driver kind of starts off, goes 1 or 2 in play, 3 or 4, and then you're like, okay, now for the remainder of the year, Brian, what does it replace? What driver is it, taken out of the bag? And so it was interesting just watching it, and it was just on the slow uptick up and to the right. And by the end of the year, that we were seeing this was our second most played driver on tour, behind Triple Diamond. And so we ended up launching it in the market. We sold out immediately, just a limited drop, just to see, hey, like, is there demand out there in the market? The other thing that we see is when people come into our test center, our ECPC, our performance center, some of these options we'll have. If you do get the invitation to come to our performance center, you're usually going to get to see things that maybe aren't on the stores or the shelves in the stores. And so we also started watching whether it was our Green Grass Club Pros, VIP, better players, people in Callaway Next, our elite college and junior players, to see, hey, what drivers are they going into? And you see that this Triple Diamond Max began to really go in the bags of good players, and also, other, handicappers, not just tour pros. And so we thought that just based on the success, the validation last year on tour, we refined it. We're excited to bring it this year in the market. So really excited about the TD Max. Just an incredible driver. It's the driver I've been playing for 2 years. I'm really excited for the WRX fans to really get an opportunity to see this and, not have to chase it. Last year, it was just like, there's a couple thousand of them. If you didn't get it immediately, you weren't getting it. But now there's a unique opportunity for everybody to experience this. Go get fit. If you've been a Triple Diamond player, but you're like, man, I want just a little bit more forgiveness, but I don't want that shape that's not pleasing. I want the better player shape that looks like a Triple Diamond, but just has that added forgiveness. You can see it right there. It's in my opinion, one of the most beautiful shapes we've made.
Yeah, and you're right, because I think last year you made a really good comment. Like, out on tour, of course, last year with AI Smoke, we saw Triple Diamond Max heads early in the year in some bags, and like you mentioned, I think I even remember reading a thread that was talking about AI Smoke Max, Triple Diamond Max, or AI. That's a lot to say. And it was something like that. Somebody said, like, somebody noticed, and they were like, wow, like, we've seen more and more of these heads every week in these kind of what's in the bag photos.
Yeah.
And I think that really did build up the hype of, like, I really want to try this driver. And like you said, I played Triple Diamond Max a lot last year, just because it was that combination of, a little bit of spin reduction, but you still got forgiveness. The shape was great. And I think now that's even making this kind of even bigger, because people knew, well, it's kind of a limited thing. It was a little hard to get your hands on. And now it's coming back again. And people, not only do you get everything that comes with the regular Elite driver and the Triple Diamond Elite, you get those, kind of upgrades, the new face technology, all that. But now you're getting that kind of in-between head again. And I think people are really excited to get their hands on it, knowing how well the AI Smoke version did last year. Now the Elite version, people are really, like I said, they really want to try it, and they've been waiting for this head to come out. But interesting, you said about, like, kind of like the shape. I was kind of pulled this out. I was kind of looking at it next to, the regular Triple Diamond and all that. It really doesn't look that much different. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bigger footprint and kind of more noticeable. But when you do kind of set it down, you're right. It does have a very Triple Diamond shape. It looks like it may be a hair bigger. I don't know if it is in terms of footprint when you look down on it, just a little bit. But the shaping itself overall is very, very similar. But when you kind of design a head like this, where, forgiveness is a little bit more of the focus, do you kind of have to kind of take that into consideration and say, well, we don't want to make it, elite big, or we don't want to make it look like this. We've got to keep it compact, but we still want to add all this forgiveness. So is that a kind of a big thing when you're kind of looking at a driver like this?
That you're exactly right. So, when you look down right in the industry right now, there's just been a big, a lot of activity in high MOI heads. But, if you're a good player, you look down at these, and it's not the most pleasing thing to look at, right? You're like, wow, I mean, I know I probably need forgiveness. I want forgiveness, but I don't necessarily feel confident looking down at this shape. I can't get it over. And that's where it's like, hey, we put, like our standard Elite, it's a great driver. It's used by, a lot of tour pros, but there's a lot of people out there that are like, man, I can't look at that. And so, it's split in the middle of the Triple Diamond and the Elite. So it sits kind of right there in the middle of it. But when you look down at it, most people see triple diamond, and you really have to have them side by side to see the subtle differences. And that's really important for the better player, is because they want the forgiveness, right? This head is extremely stable for a triple diamond, and we've seen triple diamond be really successful. We saw it last week, with Min Woo, just cruising at 194 miles an hour to win the Houston Open. Obviously Xander had a ton of success, 2 major championships last year, but for those high speed players, the triple diamond max could be a good alternative, or for someone that, hey, I want a little bit more forgiveness. So I love this driver just because it does give you everything you love about the triple diamond, but a little bit more forgiveness across the face without sacrificing any distance, in a shape that's exceptionally pleasing, but also gives you the front and back rear weight configurations, right? That's something that allows you to dial in the spin. It's going to maintain the look of the triple diamond with the high gloss crown, which is extremely premium looking. So, I'm really excited about this. This was our most asked question from the time we launched it until all the way up until today. People saying, when are you bringing back the triple diamond max? And we're excited to do that.
So on this one here, and you make a comment about the better player, but I think also there's a big kind of a group of golfers who are coming in, as I talk to more fitters over the years, of players who aren't necessarily handicap wise really good players yet, but they're very athletic people. They play a lot of sports, they're very strong, they work out, they do all these things, and the speed they bring is kind of that almost better player tour level type speed. They just don't have the control yet. So, they're looking at these fits where this person's producing a ton of ball speed. They're maybe producing some spin because of, some swing things they do that, they need forgiveness, but they still do need some spin reduction. Like they can't walk away from that to get, their optimal drives. And I think this plays a bigger role than maybe just a, off the tour part that is meant for just better players. I feel like there's a big, group of people that they're going to benefit from this just because, that you'll get the low spin, you get the forgiveness, you get a little bit of everything with it that you were kind of maybe in between.
And it's so neutral, right? That's what triple diamond is. It's neutral. It's, you as a player are in control of the shot shape, meaning that we design these to start, down the center line with no bias in them. And so, you're getting a driver now that's forgiving, but still maintaining that neutral. It doesn't have the bias that other drivers have. So that's really important. To your point, Brian, is there's a lot of people out there that want that, right? They want to be able to control it. Maybe they're not a low single digit handicap, but they still have enough feel to where it's like, hey, when I make a good swing, I want the ball to start straight and go straight. And if I make a bad swing, I'm okay with a little bit of it curving slightly one direction. And so that's really where this triple diamond shines.
Yep. So the triple diamond is, if you're not as familiar, it kind of fits in between triple diamond and the standard Elyte. Now, when you kind of do this, and I know, of course, it's always, you need to go get fit, because we always, even myself, people talk about numbers and all that, and really your swing is different than everybody else's. So, but in terms of just kind of a general little bit of number, do you have kind of like a spin and launch difference between this and say triple diamond and Elyte, do you have any kind of numbers there where it kind of says, like, through your testing, maybe it's a couple hundred RPM less or more, whatever? And again, when you go get fit, it could be totally different. So, you got to definitely go do that. But it's just in terms of general, what do you look at in terms of spin and launch compared to, say, triple diamond, the regular Elyte triple diamond?
Yeah, great question. So I think, our triple diamond and triple diamond max will be very similar in spin. And so, it's the added forgiveness of that, more control across the face. The Elyte standard will spin a little bit less than both of those this year. And then that's kind of where we stand right now.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. And then we move into the one that I was kind of surprised. I kind of figured Elyte triple diamond max was going to come. I figured that was going to be on the way, just like we talked about, due to the popularity of the previous one with AI Smoke. But the next one, the triple diamond TD, we've seen a lot of triple diamond letters. We've seen, on tour T's and S's and, pluses and everything. But the TD is kind of a new one. This one's pretty interesting. And the more I think about it, the more I kind of get it. But at first I didn't really think this was going to be one we were going to see this year. But the triple diamond TD, so first off, what does triple diamond TD stand for?
Yeah, that's right. It stands for tour draw, right?
Yep.
And so, What we did is at the end of last year, or kind of mid-season, we take all of our tour club builds, and we have a database where we look at every driver that's in play across the global tours and how the reps build them. And when a driver goes out on tour, the tour reps are exceptional at what they do. And, a lot of times they'll move weights around, they'll add internal glue, they might adjust face angle to get start line right. Really nothing's off limits for them to help optimize that driver for players. And so as drivers start to go and play, we mine all that data and we start to look at it and we say, okay, how are these drivers being set up so that we can set specs and learn for our next launch, maybe 2 years down the road? And so one thing we noticed is that the triple diamond tends to start relatively straight, but with the AI smoke, it kind of just would fall ever so slightly to the right. Very neutral, but if anything, kind of post apex on a perfectly neutral zero path and face, it might just fall slightly to the right. And then we looked at kind of what we call our slower swing speed tours, meaning LPGA Tour, Champions Tour, our JLPGA over in those type of global tour markets. What we saw is a lot of the reps were actually taking a triple diamond and adding some glue towards the heel in order to just take that slight fall to the right out of there and have it fall slightly to the left. Just because maybe they didn't quite have the speed to turn it over in that triple diamond setting. And so we looked at that and we saw kind of a continued uptick of that. And we said, okay, well, why do we want our tour reps or our players that, are part of Team Callaway to have a driver that's kind of re-engineered to perform? What if we just went and designed a triple diamond tour draw driver the actual right way? And so that's what we did is we actually went in, we fixed the start line so that, we would get them to start slightly to the right, but also have just a little bit of internal weighting to allow that driver to turn over. So, we're really excited about this. This is something that is really kind of in its first year of prototype. We're just putting it out in the market in a very, very, very limited fashion. It's been on tour for a couple months now. It's been exciting to see it. So, from an overall, summary of this driver, it's a triple diamond driver that is going to, turn over. So for someone that, says, hey, I like to aim down the right edge of the fairway and turn this thing over. We see that a lot with kind of, better players or even, people that maybe aren't playing as much. And it's interesting. What I always find so ironic about tour golf is you look on the PGA Tour, majority of the players move it left to right. You go to the DP World Tour, everybody moves it right to left. Just crazy, right? And when you look at the breakdown of the, top 100 in the world, there's a lot of Europeans in there, but the way they play golf is so different. And that creates a challenge for us. We're designing product because we want to, have success on the PGA Tour, but we also want to have success on the DP World Tour and the LPGA Tour and the, JLPGA Tour. And so our jobs is to say, look at this holistically, the high level view, the 50,000 foot level of all the global tours, make sure they have the tools to service our players, optimize their bags. And so this was a little small niche that we found that we said, hey, we can help Team Callaway play better by giving them this and not allowing them just to have a driver that's retrofitted, but let's actually get the specs right. Let's get the right mass properties. Let's get the start line. Let's not just have to put glue in there. And so that was really the genesis of the Triple Diamond Tour Draw. Really excited about this. If you're a player that's like, I love the Triple Diamond, but I have a little bit of trouble, not turning it over, this is a driver for you. If you're the guy that likes to aim right edge of the fairway and hit a little baby tour draw, this is what it is. It's not a shot shape correction, right? Like when you think of our X driver, that's going to have draw bias and start line bias, right? Because you're trying to correct a slice. That's not what this is. This is a driver that's designed to, turn over a couple yards.
Yep. And I think you're as you mentioned, the triple diamonds before have primarily been pretty neutral or maybe just that hair fade bias, as you said, it falls. And there's people who, they don't want to see that. They want to see that ball go from right to left, no matter what. And having an option like this, even, not at the tour level, but even at us amateur level, I mean, there are players who, like you said, it's not a correction thing. It's not a draw head in a sense where you're going to be able to hit it, 50 yards to the left. But it just gives you that enough where, one, like you said, it helps that start line a little, but it also, in that player's mind, like, I don't have to worry about the right side now. I know I can just, like I said, aim down the right side, let it draw back. I'm fine. I don't have to worry about doing anything different or trying to really turn it over myself. I can just take my normal swing, let it happen, and it goes. And this one here, I mean, shape-wise, again, we talked about Triple Diamond Max looks a little bigger. This, I mean, looks like a Triple Diamond. It looks a little bit more compact. Doesn't look really any different than the standard Elyte Triple Diamond that is on the shelves currently.
Yeah. And I just, it's funny, I just got back from Asia. I was in Japan, Korea the last couple of weeks, and they are in love with this driver. The Japanese, this is perfect for them because they play golf that way. They like to hit draws. They like the Triple Diamond. They like, the looks of it. You think of the X-Forged irons, in Japan that have done very well over there. So we're excited to see this. This has really caught on exceptionally well in Japan. We're excited to bring it here to the U.S. in a very limited fashion. So if you have interest in this driver, I would highly encourage you. You better act quickly because, we're bringing out Triple Diamond Max in a little bit more of a limited fashion, just one drop. But the TD is going to be very limited. So again, this is just, we're hearing from, the WRXers, the people that are out there. It's like, hey, let us get a little dab of that tour stuff. If you're going to put it on tour, we don't want to have, 7 SKUs, 8 SKUs at retail. We know that retailers, can always carry that many SKUs. But, they have come to say, hey, we know that there's a really big segment of people out there that would like to get their hands on some of this tour stuff if it comes and goes really quickly in a limited fashion. So we're listening to the consumers, the feedback, and we're going to give them this opportunity.
Yep. And like I said, it's very cool. Like I said, I'm a guy who kind of, hits a draw anyway, and I'm kind of excited to hit this thing just to kind of see. Now with it is, when you look at kind of, spin and launch, is it, pretty much identical to Triple Diamond then? Just, like you said, with some slight tweaks to be that slightly draw favored. We won't call it draw bias, we'll call it draw favored there. Is it the same kind of spin launch numbers? And then in terms of like lie, is it the same, lie angles, a little more upright than say a standard Triple Diamond head?
Yeah. Same lie angle, still at 57, a little bit different face progression, just to allow it to start a little bit further right. And then, from a spin perspective, it's going to be slightly lower just because it is kind of turning over, right? So, compared to the Triple Diamond this year for Elyte is very neutral. So let's just say, if Triple Diamond's 12 and 24, the Triple Diamond Tour draw is going to kind of favor a little bit more in that 2250 range, something like that, just because it is kind of turning over.
Gotcha. So this in theory, and again, you got to go get fit because even if we talk about it and say, oh, this could technically be the lowest spinning head in the line, you could hit it and spin it higher than the standard Elyte head. Like it's really going to depend on the player, but in theory, this is technically the lowest spinning head then in the lineup.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. Like I said, this one was the shock to me. I didn't expect to see this one. Like I said, I expected the other two. This one is going to be pretty interesting. And like you said, I'm not a super high spin guy. Kind of hit a draw, but I just want to hit it. I'm pretty excited to try this one out and see how it goes because it is definitely something a little bit more unique. And like you said, a little tour sauce there for us average players to get our hands on and see how it goes. And then we kind of go into the one that again, I think everybody was kind of expecting in a way, but very, very excited about. I know the mini driver craze right now is probably one of the hottest crazes in golf. I think everybody's kind of wanting to know how they can kind of fit a mini driver into their bag. We've got the Elyte Mini, which is it looks awesome. It is literally a little Elyte. Like when you look at it, it's got the same movable weights. I mean, everything on it looks the same except it is just smaller. But the mini driver thing, I mean, when you look at it on tour, we're seeing more and more use. It seems every week somebody's adding something into their bag or testing it out on the range. But what is it with kind of the mini driver that on tour and at retail is kind of exciting? Like what are people kind of looking for in it? And then kind of get into like, how this kind of evolved from, again, AI Smoke, a kind of a limited edition or, limited run. Where does this kind of come from there to the new one?
Yeah, it's been an incredible little run here for the mini driver. And I can tell you, just talking with the tour reps last week on our Thursday call, there's a lot of people looking at the Mini Driver for Augusta here in a few weeks.
Oh, I bet.
You can just imagine that, off the tee, making sure that you have a club that goes the right distance there. So, it's interesting. I think that, we in the building, we talk a lot about top of the bag versatility right now. I think that Callaway, has, a utility wood and a mini driver, and gives you a lot of different options. A lot of high lofted fairway woods. We have a tie fairway wood. We have 3HLs. And so we're really just focused on giving golfers the ability to build the top of that bag. And the mini driver's been something that, has really caught on. And what's interesting about this one is it's like, the best players in the world are finding a need for it, but also people that are terrible drivers of the golf ball are finding a need for it. And you don't really see that crossover very much for a product. And really it's, the best players, tour pros at Augusta, they're going to be, putting it in the bag because, it's easier. It's more forgiving to hit off the tee. They're not necessarily maybe hitting a fairway wood into par fives. Let's think yesterday. Minwoo Lee, he's cruising at 194 ball speed with his driver. It's like, where is he going to hit a 3-wood off the deck, right? He's going to be in the 180s ball speed. He's not stopping that ball on a par 5 green, right? So it's like, his ability to really hit a 3-wood off the deck is non-existent anymore. So if he does have a hole where he needs to, hit a second tee option, a mini driver could be a good option. He currently isn't playing one. I'm not alluding to that, but I'm just talking about the high speed player. And I think there's this misconception in the industry that a lot of people get up on a tight hole and they go, oh, I need to hit my 3-wood. Because it's more forgiving. Well, yes, it is more forgiving because it's at a shorter length, but the head is not higher MOI, right? Yeah. It's not. And so that's where the mini driver really falls in. It's shorter in length. It's a higher MOI head. So it gives the ability to say, hey, Brian, yourself, I know if you were hitting your driver 280 and you hit your 3-wood 260, this mini driver is going to kind of be right in between that. And so, there's a great need. I just remember when we brought this out last year on Korn Ferry Tour, again, to the earlier conversation of how PGA Tour and DP World Tour play different golf. Then you go to Korn Ferry Tour, which is more house-lined golf courses, not championship-type golf courses. And these guys, the golf courses aren't built for them. They don't have the luxury. These are just everyday country clubs. They're not going in and building tee boxes 40 yards back just to prepare for the Korn Ferry Tour. So they're playing the tips, but it's, 7,000 yards. And when you look on the Korn Ferry Tour, these guys can't hit driver because they're hitting it through the dog legs. And so for them, it was incredible. It was all these mini drivers kept going in play because guys hit so many fairway woods off the tee to stay short of the dog leg or not to run into a yard. So that was a really good, solvable need that we had there on Korn Ferry Tour. But then, you go to my dad, who, he's getting to a par 5. He has no chance of getting there in 2. Maybe there's some rough or some fairway bunkers or it's a little bit tight. It's like, Dad, hey, just hit the mini driver off the tee, keep it in the fairway. Then it's an easy layup to make sure you're in the fairway for your third shot versus him hitting in the rough, hitting in a bunker, not being able to lay up, not being able to get there in 3, making a silly 7 on a par 5. So it's really cool to see this club kind of crossover between the best players in the world and then people that, maybe struggle off the tee. So the shorter length, the higher MOI, we're excited with the Elyte Mini Driver now to actually have adjustability. So as you can see there, really the ability to have some shot shape correction, whether that's a little bit more draw bias, a little bit more toe bias, but really being able to optimize that shot shape for the Mini Driver. And this is a great solution for top of the bag.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I get a lot of, like, I do a little Q&A on Instagram and I get a lot of questions on mini drivers. It seems when the mini drivers kind of first hit, years ago, like there was a few that popped up, here and there, and everybody was kind of trying to build them like short, heavy 3-woods, and it seems like nowadays these are literally mini drivers. People are building them a little bit longer. Not crazy. They're not going to the 45 inches or anything, but they're building them a little longer with lighter weight shafts. They're trying to create a little speed with them. And I think it definitely is that part of it is making it more, like you said, kind of more accepted across all range of golfers, because not only are you getting the guy who struggles to hit driver straight or whatever, and this smaller, shorter unit lets him hit it straight, or you get those tour caliber players who are playing it to a certain distance or a certain shot shape. And like I said, with the adjustable ability, now you're able to maybe have this in there as maybe this is your draw club. Maybe you hit a fade off the tee, and then you have something like this where you can move the weight in the heel. It's a little smaller. The center of gravity is a little closer to the shaft axis. Maybe this one you can turn it over and hit a draw.
That's right.
And depending on the hole, you can pull one or the other, because there's a lot of people who hitting a 3-wood into a par 5. Even if you can do it, can you get it to stop? Can you hit it accurately enough to stay away from the water, the bunkers, or whatever else is out there? A lot of times you're just laying up there anyway. So this being another option off the tee can give you some versatility and some shot shapes that you may not have with a regular driver.
That's right. And, for a lot of people, it's like, and this is the WRX fans at their core is like, hey, if you have multiple club option setups for what course you're going to play at tomorrow, and if you lay in bed tonight, playing your round and thinking about, hey, I'm going to put this in because of this par 3, or I'm going to put this mini driver in to hit on this hole because, it's going to be into the wind and I can't get there in 2. This is a great option for you. And those are the people that we're, trying to help solve and help them play better.
Yeah. And I'm that guy. I've gone. I change up stuff all the time, but you're right. There are things where you'll go play a course, and maybe it's someplace you haven't played before, but you're one of those guys. You're looking at the flyovers online and checking out the scorecard and all that things. Google Maps and doing the little tracing of shots and yardages. And there's definitely people who they could see this making a run where this might be their driver. Like they'll have this in the bag and then maybe go to a 4-wood, and if it's a shorter course. And be perfectly fine and be able to hit kind of those straight shots with this right down there, hit them long enough where you're still short irons or whatever into greens. So this could play kind of a bunch of roles. And then, there's a lot talked about, well, I have this in the bag, I can't really hit off the deck, but this is still made, you can still take it off the deck, right? Especially the high speed players, they're going to do it because they'll have no problem elevating it. But in terms of the average player, you're still able to hit this off the deck.
That's right. Are you going to be able to launch it high and stop it on a green? Probably not, cover a bunker, something like that. But there's a lot of guys that can hit it off the deck and, chase it down there, laying up on a par 5 or a par 4. So it's way easier to hit off the deck than you think. So, much easier than a driver. And part of that's just because of the shaft length and the head's not as big. So if you haven't tried it, I highly encourage you to go mess around, go test with it. And I always tell people is like, go hit some shots on the course with it. Go, go get one, go out to the course and hit your 3-wood, hit three 3-woods off the tee and then hit 3 mini drivers and see, what your shot dispersion looks like. And I think that a lot of people will find is a great option for them in the top of the bag. And what I'm excited about is with the Elyte Triple Diamond Max, the Elyte Triple Diamond Tour Draw TD and the Elyte Mini is, what a great opportunity for golfers now to have so many more options, right?
Yeah.
In the past, you were so limited. You'd get, maybe 2, maybe 3 drivers in the retail space, and that's all you had. But, now we're seeing people go get fit, and we're seeing people with simulators, and, your access to launch monitors is so much more prevalent. And that just unlocks, some incredible opportunities for us at Callaway to say, hey, we want to go, kind of seed out some more, options to see if we can help people play better, even if they weren't, maybe fit in this mass market of consolidation down into maybe 2 or 3 options. So it just gives us an opportunity to broaden it, gives everyday golfers and consumers the opportunity to really feel like a tour guy and go out and say, hey, man, I got some really cool options. I can go spend a day or 2 really thinking about what's going to work best for me. And if you're passionate about that, like we are, then these are some great options for you.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. How hard was it not to go gloss black on this one with the other two, compared to the other 2? I know it matches up with Elyte, its older sibling in that way, but I'm like, how cool would it have been with gloss black too, to kind of match all 3 that were released? That could have been a cool one as well.
Yeah, we thought about that. And it's a good point, Brian, we kept the gloss for Triple Diamond. That was our thinking there is, hey, you get the Triple Diamond, the Triple Diamond Max, or the Triple Diamond TD, you get gloss, and then the rest of the Elyte line is matte. And it's, both look great.
That's good.
It's when you do these types of consumer research and votes, it's like half the people are going to raise their hand and say, I want the matte, and half are going to say gloss. So we try to change it up ever so often, both really good top line finishes. And no matter if we would have put gloss on there, Brian, you would ask for matte this year. So, we'll keep that in mind for next year.
No, I mean, it's funny you say, because when everything came out, I was kind of like, wow, the Elyte Triple Diamond was great. I'm like, I kind of like just the raw thermocarbon or the thermal forged carbon crown. Like, I actually kind of like the matte look. It's just, it shows off some of the text. I'm like, I would have been good with that in the whole line. But no, they look really good. And like you said, I mean, every one of them here, a ton of adjustability. And, like I said, the more I talk with fitters every year, they love adjustability, putting weights, putting, the adjustable hosel, being able to dial in their customers and get them really set up to something that works for them is huge. So it's cool to see the Elyte Mini with the weight track, or, the weight spots on the back, not just the two movable weights like the previous AS Smoke. So just a really cool line. So excited to get these out there. I think people are really excited to hit these, and I really appreciate you taking the time to break down all three models, because I know we're going to have a lot of our audience who are running out to try all three for sure. They're definitely not leaving any of them on the shelf. They're going to be trying all three. So thank you, Jacob, for all the time today, man. It was awesome. Yeah, enjoyed it, and look forward to having a good opening season here in the Masters. And thanks for your time, Brian. And we hope you guys, enjoy these options. And if you have comments, obviously, throw them in the forum. We'd love to hear from you guys and what you like, what's working, and how we can help you play better. Sounds good.